From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. Radio Pilipinas World Service can also be heard on shortwave broadcast through the shortwave facilities of the United States Agency for Global Media or Voice of America on the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.750 MHz, and 21.720 MHz. I'm your host, Leo Magpayo, and this is Dateline Malacañang. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. wasted no time turning his fifth State of the Nation address Arizona into action, rolling out a week-long series of engagements across Luzon and Mindanao that spotlighted healthcare, housing, energy, food security, and grassroots development. From hospital inspections in Davao de Oro to housing pledges in Davao City, the President underscored his push to bring government programs directly to communities. He turned over 147.94 million pesos worth of medical equipment to strengthen provincial healthcare and vowed to complete 42 new housing buildings by 2027 under the Peoplesville Project. Midweek, President Marcos shifted focus to energy security, inaugurating the Energy Museum in Taguig on the 25th anniversary of the Electric Power Industry Reform Act, or EPIRA. He stressed reforms to make electricity more reliable, affordable, and sustainable while encouraging investments in diverse energy sources. At Malacañang, the President received farewell calls from the ambassadors of Hungary and the Netherlands, reaffirming strong diplomatic ties. He also swore in two new Court of Tax Appeals associate justices, emphasizing his administration's support for an independent judiciary. By Thursday, the chief executive was in Pangasinan inspecting the rehabilitated Suwal Fish Port, directing the Department of Agriculture to modernize fishery infrastructure nationwide. He later met fisherfolk recently harassed near Bajo de Masinloc, signaling government backing for their livelihood and security. In Tarlac, President Marcos continued the rollout of the Bawat Bayan Makikinabang program, delivering integrated services and meeting with military personnel at the Northern Luzon Command to reaffirm support for the armed forces. The President's post-SONA blitz mirrored his priorities: stronger healthcare, food security, energy resilience, housing, and grassroots governance. His message was clear: commitments made in the SONA are being matched with concrete action on the ground.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine Defense Secretary Gilberto Chodoro Jr. has clarified his call for the resignation of government officials unwilling to uphold the country's position on the West Philippine Sea, or WPS, stressing that the directive is anchored on law, not personal or political beliefs. In a statement Sunday, Chodoro underscored that no official can be asked to step down just because of a belief, explaining that his remarks were based on Administrative Order, or AO number 29, issued in 2012, which designates maritime areas west of the Philippine archipelago as part of the WPS. He emphasized that all public officials are sworn to obey and uphold the Constitution and laws of the land. Those who disagree, he said, have legal recourse through the courts, but cannot disregard existing policies while in office. The defense chief also pointed to the Philippines' recent submission to the United Nations supporting its extended continental shelf claim, including waters around Bajo de Masinloc, as further reinforcement of the country's legal stance. He warned that any official opposing these claims must make their position clear, noting that history will remember such actions, especially by communities directly affected by China's illegal and fabulous activities. Chodoro pushed back against what he described as misleading reports, saying fake news once again has reared its ugly head, and urged the public not to rely on headlines that distort his statements. His clarification followed earlier remarks that officials siding with China on the WPS issue must either uphold the country's position, challenge it before the Supreme Court, or resign. The statement comes amid renewed tensions in the West Philippine Sea, including confrontations near Ayungin Shoal, as the Marcos Jr. administration continues to assert sovereign rights through diplomacy, international law, and the 2016 Arbitral Award.
Dateline Malacañang.
Five Filipino crew members of the Antigua-flagged bulk carrier MV Inase arrived safely in Manila on August 1st aboard Philippine Airlines Flight PR-731 at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport or NAIA Terminal 1. Their repatriation follows continued attacks on ships in the Black Sea. 7 other Filipino seafarers from the same vessel had returned earlier in 2 separate batches on July 31st. The group was welcomed by Department of Migrant Workers or DMW Assistant Secretary Maria Regina Angela Gallias alongside representatives from the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration or OWA and the Manila International Airport Authority or MIA medical team. The Migrant Workers Office in Bangkok also assisted during their transit. The DMW and OWA provided airport and financial assistance while the MIA medical team conducted health checks to ensure their well-being. Representatives of their manning agency, Seagate Navigation Corporation, also met them at the airport. The crew had been on board MV Inase when it was struck by a drone while docked at the port of Pivdeny in Ukraine. The seafarers expressed relief at returning home safely. The DMW directed the manning agency to ensure the crew undergoes physical and psychological checks and debriefing sessions. In line with President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive, the department reminded all licensed manning agencies and their principals to strictly observe safety precautions and comply with established protocols for vessels carrying Filipino seafarers through the Black Sea.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, the Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, has recommended a temporary halt in the deployment of Filipino seafarers to the northern Black Sea after security agencies classified the area as a full-scale international armed conflict zone. During a news forum in Quezon City on Saturday, DMW Secretary Hans Leo said, ship manning agencies have been directed not to send vessels carrying Filipino crew into the conflict area. Kakdak stressed that the level of danger is high, so there should be no Filipino seafarers in that area for the meantime. Kakdak noted that assessments from the Department of Foreign Affairs and the Department of National Defense confirmed the escalation of hostilities. He added that at least 12 ships with around 180 Filipino seafarers remain in the Black Sea, but have not been attacked. Ship owners have been instructed to move them to safer ports. The DMW also ordered the repatriation of sailors from 17 vessels previously struck by drone and missile attacks. As of now, 89 Filipino seafarers have already returned home since the conflict intensified in July. The escalation follows Moscow's intensified strikes on commercial ships in the Black Sea, after Kyiv targeted Russian oil facilities in the Azov and Black Seas, sites Ukraine claims are being used illegally to transport crude.
Dateline Malacañang.
Four out of every 10 Filipinos believe bribery is the most serious allegation in the impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte. That's the key finding of the July 2026 Octa Research Tugon ng Masa survey. The nationwide poll revealed that public opinion is divided on which allegation carries the most weight. Bribery topped the list with 43% of adult respondents identifying it as the gravest charge. Misuse of confidential funds followed at 28%, while unexplained wealth and grave threats each registered 10%. 8% of respondents said they were unsure or could not determine which allegation was most serious. While bribery emerged as the leading concern overall, Octa noted regional variations. In some areas, misuse of confidential funds was considered the most pressing issue, underscoring differences in public perception depending on location. Octa Research explained that the results highlight uneven public judgment on the allegations, showing that Filipinos do not view the charges uniformly. The survey was conducted through face-to-face interviews with 1,200 adult Filipinos between July 4 and 11. The findings come as the impeachment case against the Vice President continues to dominate national discourse, with allegations ranging from bribery and misuse of confidential funds to unexplained wealth and grave threats. The survey results suggest that while bribery resonates most strongly with the public, concerns over confidential funds misuse remain significant in certain regions, pointing to a complex and varied landscape of public opinion.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, a senior official of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-ELCAC, said the arrest of a new People's Army or NPA operative and a Filipino-American citizen in Calamba, Laguna raises serious immigration and national security concerns. NTF-ELCAC Executive Director Undersecretary Ernesto Torres Jr. confirmed that NPA member Binay Serrano, alias Samay, and American citizen Cristina Passion were taken into custody in a joint police and military operation last July 30th. Torres noted Passion's presence alongside a wanted NPA personality, citing reports of her previous association with armed encounters in Mindoro. Evidence recovered from earlier clashes, including handwritten notes and field reports, will undergo legal scrutiny to verify links with armed groups. He said the Bureau of Immigration and other agencies will determine proper legal actions against Passion, including possible deportation or sanctions while ensuring due process. Torres added that foreign nationals are expected to respect immigration rules and prohibitions against unlawful political or armed activities. Earlier reports linked Passion to Migrante Internacional and to fellow Phil-American Chantal Anicoche, who was rescued in January after being abandoned during an encounter in Occidental Mindoro. Passion reportedly remained with insurgents after clashes in March. Torres warned against deceptive recruitment of foreign nationals through so-called exposure missions or solidarity tours, urging overseas Filipino communities and international networks to remain vigilant. He said NTF-ELCAC remains committed to upholding the rule of law, safeguarding Philippine sovereignty, and protecting both Filipinos and foreign nationals from exploitation by armed groups.
Dateline Malacañang.
House leaders have filed a measure that seeks to clear the way for families and businesses to generate and store their own electricity without being burdened by rules meant for commercial power producers. The proposed Sariling Kuryente Act, embodied in House Bill number 10431, was introduced by Majority Leader Sandro Marcos of Ilocos Norte and Speaker Faustino D. III of Isabela. The bill would amend the Electric Power Industry Reform Act, or EPIRA, of 2001 to distinguish electricity generated for personal consumption from power produced for sale. Under the measure, end users operating rooftop solar panels, battery storage, or similar behind-the-meter systems solely for personal use would not be classified as generation companies. Certified non-exporting systems would no longer need a certificate of compliance or prior authorization from the Energy Regulatory Commission, or ERC. Distribution utilities would also be barred from imposing prior approvals, technical studies, or additional charges, requiring only notification once installation is complete. Systems capable of exporting power to the grid would remain subject to interconnection rules, but utilities must act on applications within 10 working days. Failure to decide within that period would mean automatic approval. The Department of Energy, or DOE, would be tasked to promote wider adoption of behind-the-meter systems, remove administrative barriers, and improve access to financing, qualified installers, and reliable equipment. Homeowners associations and property managers would be prohibited from blocking installations on property owned or controlled by end users, subject only to safety conditions. Representative Marcos said the bill reflects President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s push for energy policy that gives people real choices. He stressed that if a family or business can generate and store its own electricity, government should clear the path instead of treating them like a commercial power producer. The DOE, in consultation with the ERC and stakeholders, would issue implementing rules within 90 days, with the law taking effect 15 days after publication.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, House Speaker Faustino D. III and Majority Leader Sandro Marcos have formally filed the proposed Systems Loss Charge Abolition Act, which seeks to remove system loss as a separate item in electricity bills. Under House Bill number 10430, costs arising from power theft, defective meters, weak collection, poor maintenance, inefficiency, and other lapses by distribution utilities can no longer be passed on to consumers. The measure also prohibits utilities from disguising these charges under other parts of the bill. The Energy Regulatory Commission, or ERC, would be tasked to determine only the limited portion of system loss necessary for proper network operations, while reforms would be phased in to avoid disrupting power supply. Representative Marcos stressed that ordinary families should not be forced to shoulder costs that utilities themselves can prevent. The bill aims to protect consumers from unfair charges while ensuring accountability among distribution utilities.
Dateline Malacañang.
The National Electrification Administration, or NEA, is mobilizing electric cooperatives in Luzon as Typhoon Luis continues to affect the region. In an advisory, NEA ordered all affected cooperatives to immediately submit status reports on the condition of their facilities. The agency also directed cooperatives to activate their emergency response organizations and prepare contingency measures to ensure quick response to any damage caused by the storm. NEA further instructed that essential equipment, materials, and buffer stocks be pre-positioned to guarantee immediate power restoration should transmission lines or facilities be damaged. The move underscores the government's push to secure electricity services and minimize disruption for communities in Luzon during the typhoon.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meantime, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, reported that Typhoon Luis has already affected 1,586 families, equivalent to more than 4,000 individuals in parts of the Bicol region and the Zamboanga Peninsula. Of this number, over 1,200 families, or 3,682 individuals, remain in evacuation centers as heavy rains and flooding continue to disrupt communities. The DSWD said it has released more than 1 million pesos in initial assistance to those displaced by the storm. The agency also assured that nearly 5 million family food packs are pre-positioned nationwide, ready to be deployed to augment relief operations. Officials emphasized that the pre-positioned supplies, combined with ongoing coordination with local government units, are intended to ensure that affected families receive immediate food and support while recovery efforts are underway. Typhoon Luis has underscored the importance of preparedness, with the DSWD highlighting its commitment to sustain relief operations and provide continuous aid to families until conditions stabilize.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, the Department of Education, or DepEd, has joined the nation in mourning the death of a student from Las Piñas National High School, Maine, who was fatally stabbed by a classmate last week. In a statement, DepEd emphasized that schools must remain safe sanctuaries for learning and growth, stressing that any form of violence is unacceptable. The department said it is extending full support to the victim's family, including trauma counseling for classmates and staff who witnessed the incident. DepEd also pledged cooperation with authorities in the ongoing investigation and vowed to review campus security protocols to prevent similar tragedies. Officials underscored that the agency will not relent in its mission to uphold and strengthen safe learning environments for all students. The tragedy, they said, highlights the urgent need for vigilance, stronger protective measures, and community-wide efforts to ensure schools remain places of safety, respect, and education.
Dateline Malacañang.
In a related story, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, has extended immediate assistance to the family of the 15-year-old student who was killed in the stabbing incident in Las Piñas National High School. Officials from the DSWD field office in Metro Manila personally visited the grieving family to offer condolences and provide psychosocial intervention. The agency also delivered initial financial support amounting to 20,000 pesos for food subsidy and cash relief, along with 2 boxes of family food packs. The DSWD stressed that there is no place for violence against children and reiterated its commitment to protect the youth. The department said it will continue working closely with other government agencies to strengthen safeguards and ensure the welfare of students nationwide. The latest intervention underscores the government's effort to provide both immediate relief and long-term protection for children, while highlighting the importance of coordinated action to prevent similar tragedies in schools and communities.
Dateline Malacañang.
Two Filipinas were rescued by the Bureau of Immigration, or BI, at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport, or NAIA, after authorities determined they were likely victims of illegal recruitment and human trafficking. The women, aged 39 and 25, were intercepted in separate incidents on July 23 and 24 at the NAIA Terminal 3. Initially, both claimed they were traveling as tourists to Malaysia and Thailand. But upon closer inspection, the 39-year-old admitted her true destination was Pakistan, where she had been promised work as a cleaner. The 25-year-old revealed she was bound for Myanmar after being offered a job in an online gaming hub through Telegram, with a promised salary of $1,500 per month. Immigration officials stressed that recruiters often use false travel declarations and social media platforms to lure victims into illegal recruitment schemes. Both women have been placed under the care of the Interagency Council Against Trafficking, or IACAT, while cases are being prepared against their recruiters. The Bureau of Immigration reminded the public to be vigilant against suspicious overseas job offers and to immediately report suspected trafficking cases to the IACAT hotline 1343. This latest interception underscores the continuing threat of human trafficking and highlights the government's efforts to protect Filipinos from exploitation abroad. It also serves as a warning that traffickers are adapting their methods, using digital platforms and deceptive travel arrangements to target vulnerable workers.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Taguig City Police have arrested a 28-year-old Chinese national following a road rage incident in Bonifacio Global City or BGC Friday evening. Authorities identified the suspect, known as alias Sang Ji, a resident of the area. Investigators said the incident happened around 6:30 in the evening at the corner of 11th Avenue and 39th Street, when the suspect suddenly stopped his bicycle on a pedestrian lane. This forced an SUV behind him to brake abruptly to avoid a collision. Police reported that the suspect then got off his bicycle, repeatedly struck the roof of the SUV, shouted insulting remarks at the driver and passenger, and even made offensive hand gestures. BGC marshals and responding police officers quickly intervened, leading to the suspect's arrest. He was brought to a hospital for medical examination before being processed for investigation. Charges of unjust vexation under Article 287 of the Revised Penal Code are now being prepared. The Southern Police District commended the swift response of its operatives and reiterated that the law will be enforced fairly regardless of nationality. Officials emphasized that public order and respect for the law remain paramount in one of Metro Manila's busiest business districts.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, the Philippine Coast Guard has issued, PCG, has issued an advisory warning fishermen, mariners, and the public about possible rocket debris from China's Geelong 3 launch that may fall within the country's exclusive economic zone or EEZ on August 5th. According to the Coast Guard District, northeastern Luzon, the rocket will be launched from the Yellow Sea in Shandong Province between 10:29 and 11:04 in the morning. Based on information from the Philippine Space Agency or PhilSA, parts of the rocket are expected to drop within a designated zone about 94 nautical miles from Babuyan Island and 143 nautical miles from Santa Ana, Cagayan. Authorities clarified that while the drop zone lies inside the Philippine EEZ, the risk to the mainland remains low. Still, the Coast Guard is advising all vessels to avoid the area during the launch window and to immediately report any suspected rocket debris to the nearest Coast Guard unit. The PCG said it is closely coordinating with relevant agencies to ensure public safety at sea. Officials emphasized that precautionary measures are necessary to protect fishermen and mariners operating near the designated drop zone, while maintaining vigilance against hazards posed by falling debris. This advisory highlights the importance of maritime safety and international coordination as rocket launches from neighboring countries continue to affect Philippine waters.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service can be heard over the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.750 MHz, and 21.720 MHz. Radyo Pilipinas World Service is also live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS Receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our post as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and mabuhay.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.